And now we are correctly running Ubuntu and OpenCV on the GHF51, so the device is ready to be implemented with your commercial project and to be deployed in production. Hi there, my name is Sergio and I help companies, students and freelancers to easily and efficiently apply visual recognition to their projects. We're going to see today a single board computer which is the DFI GH51, and it's this one. We can compare this one with a Raspberry Pi, and they have a really similar size. As you can see, of course, this one has a really big heatsink, but except that it has a really similar size for the Raspberry Pi. And why should you use this one instead of the Raspberry Pi? Well, for two reasons. First of all, if you need to develop an industrial application, you need to have a more reliable device than the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is good for home usage and hobby, but when it comes to the connections, for example, as you can see, the Raspberry Pi has a USB-C socket, which can easily be plugged and unplugged, while this one has a really solid connection that we can see right here. This is the solid connection that you need to screw, and also this other one. And also this is made for industrial applications, so also it can work on more extreme conditions with the temperature going from -20 up to 70 degrees Celsius. And then the second reason is the CPU. This has more power than the Raspberry Pi. Also, it has an integrated graphic card, AMD Ryzen, and so even the video is more smooth than the one with the Raspberry Pi. Of course, there is a difference in price. While the Raspberry Pi is $50, $60, this one comes in different versions and the lower price is $300. I'm not going to give you more details about this one. If you want to know more, I'm going to put some pictures and more information on the blog post below. While on today's tutorial, we are going to see how to install Ubuntu, Ubuntu 20.04, how to install OpenCV on the DFI, because this comes by default with Windows 10, which I really don't like when working with Python, machine learning, deep learning, and computer vision. Really, there is no reason why to have Windows 10, so we'll put Ubuntu. Before starting, make sure that you have a USB pen where we can put the Ubuntu system, and then we can plug the USB pen on the DFI, and then we can move on. So if you have the USB pen and you're ready, let's start. Now, first of all, let's make sure that you have the pen plugged inside the computer, and the pen must be at least 8 GB or more, and make sure it's empty, or if there are files, it's going to be formatted. So make sure that there are not important files, because you are going to lose all the files. So we plug the USB pen, and then there are two steps that we have to make. First one, we have to download Ubuntu, and we go on ubuntu.com/download. And so download right here, and then we have Ubuntu desktop. We click right here. And now there are different versions. We have 20.04, 20.10. We're going to download the 20.04, which is LTS, so long-term support, and it's better to use this one. On this one, we click download, and then the download should run automatically. If not, just click on download now. I have already Ubuntu, so you should click save. I already have it, so I will just close this window. And then once you have downloaded Ubuntu, which is around 2.7 GB, we need to put Ubuntu inside the USB. We cannot just take the image of Ubuntu and put it inside of the USB, but we have to create a bootable USB, so that once we plug the USB on the device, then it will run as a boot. To do this, we need a second software to download, which is called Rufus, and the website to download this one is rufus.ie. And by the way, all these links will be on the blog below in the description. If you don't want to type them, you can click all the links on my blog. Now, we need to use this simple software, so let's download this one. We just scroll down until we see download, and we're going to download the latest version. In the moment that I'm downloading this one is 3.13. So let's download this one, Rufus 3.13, and then let's save this one. Once Rufus is downloaded, we are going to run this one, and that's what we see. We have a few things. First of all, we have the device connected. Here it will be the name of your USB pen. In my case, it's called already Ubuntu because I already put Ubuntu before. So it can be any different name. Make sure that you select the right pen where you want to put the Ubuntu system. Then we need to select the boot, so the image that we downloaded, and we just will select here disk or ISO image, and then we select, and now we need to go on download or wherever you downloaded the Ubuntu image and select the Ubuntu image that we downloaded, the one that is 2.7 gigabyte. Once we do that, we click open, and we leave everything else as default. So partition scheme, target or system, we leave it as it is, and everything else as it is. And now we can finally click on start. Here it will ask for confirmation because it is going to delete all the files that are here. So make sure that that are on the USB pen. So make sure that there are not important files on that pen. And so you press yes. And now it asks also if writing ISO image mode or DD image mode. Let's use the recommended selection. So let's press OK. And now again, to continue with this operation, click OK. It's saying that all the data inside the USB pen will be destroyed, and we confirm again, and now it's starting. This procedure will take a few minutes, and once this is done, this bar is done, we can continue. So I'm going to pause the video and I will be back once this is completed. And once we see this green bar ready completed, it means that the USB pen is ready, so we can unplug the USB from the computer. So I will close this one, and you can safely unplug the USB from the computer, and then we can plug the USB inside our DFI device. So I'm going to do that. I will put the USB inside the device, and then we will continue on from there. Now let's connect the cables, and there are 3 cables that we need to connect to run this one. First of all, let's take a look at what we have here. We have 2 micro HDMI ports, which are this one, and then we have USB-C, then we have Ethernet connection, and then the power connection. And we need just a micro HDMI in order that we can connect the monitor. We need a USB-C adapter so that later we can connect the keyboard and the mouse, and then of course we need to connect the power. So I will start with connecting the power. So this one, if you haven't done this, you need to screw this one. Is the black cable, you need to screw it with the minus symbol, and the yellow one with the plus. Once you have done this, you need to connect to the power adapter. Let me take the cable, and this is the cable from the power adapter, which is this one. And so let's do that, and I'm going now to make the connection. And once this is inside, we need to screw this one. Then, second, let's plug the micro HDMI. So I have an adapter which is micro HDMI to HDMI, and then this is connected to the monitor. and we can plug this one right here. So we have two ports, it doesn't really matter which you choose, they both work, so I'm choosing the one on the left side. And now finally let's put this adapter. So this is a USB-C to USB adapter, and I need this one only in order to connect the keyboard. So this one on this port later we can connect keyboard and mouse. And so I'm going to plug this one inside the USB-C. So I'm going to do this, and now on this one I will put my mouse and keyboard, and that's all you have to do. Then later you can just connect to the power. Now it's everything unplugged, and we will continue with the display of the monitor, and we can start. One thing that I was forgetting, of course, you need to put right here the USB pen as well, in order that we will run this from the USB pen. Now I connected the device, and it will run. We will see now the boot of this device right now. Okay, this one. By default, you should already see the USB Ubuntu running from that one, so we will be able to choose either if to run Ubuntu or to run the installation and so on. If you don't see this, and instead if it goes straight to Windows, it means that we need to enable the boot from USB from the BIOS. So I'm going to run this again, and I will show how to do that. So this might be not necessary, but if it runs Windows and you don't see Ubuntu, just follow along with this. When it's running, let's press the Del button on the keyboard, and we see entering setup. Now, this is the BIOS. If you are not familiar with the BIOS, doesn't really matter. We have to change only one single thing. We just go using the arrows of the keyboard on the section boot, and we see right here we have two boot options. We have option 1, which in my case is the USB pen, and the option 2 is the disk of the device. If the USB pen is on the second position, we need to make sure that it goes up to the first position. So we can do this by using plus and minus. So you click plus and minus, and it changes the position. So I'm going to put, of course, the pen as first, and the second option, the MMC drive of the device, and then we go on with the right arrow of the keyboard, we go on save, and then we want to save changes and reset. So we'll save the changes and it will run again. Now with this operation we are sure that the boot is from the USB. If you are still encountering problems, it means that something is not working with the USB probably. Now let's proceed with the Ubuntu installation. So I'm going to wait that it starts, and now let's select from this first window the option Ubuntu, and let's wait now for the loading. It will take probably a few seconds up to a few minutes, but it should be fast. Now it's checking the disk, so I'm going to pause this, and we will be back when the checking of the disk is completed. And after the checking of the disk, which takes a couple of minutes only, we have now the option either to try Ubuntu or to install Ubuntu. So you can try it, or if you want to make the installation, we will just go straight into the installation. You choose your own language. By default, I'm going to use English so that everyone can follow easily, and then we install Ubuntu. We just press install Ubuntu, and now let's follow the instructions. We need to choose our keyboard layout, so it depends on the country where you are. Of course, you will have you can have English language, but you can choose your keyboard. I'm going to leave everything as default, so I will use English also for this one, and I'm going to continue. And now we have a few options regarding the installation. We have normal installation, minimal installation, and we have other options. I recommend to go with the minimal installation, so web browser and basic utilities, because it will take less memory on the device, which has from around 32 gigabytes of memory or 64, it depends the version that you use, so it's not much. So the less memory we use for the OS system, the better it is. And then if there is something that we need, we can always install the programs that we need later, of course. Minimal installation, but also let's make sure that we install third-party software for graphics and other hardwares and drivers. So it will make the installation easier for all the drivers that are necessary for CPU, GPU, and other device that we can later connect to this one. And then we can press continue. Now we can choose the installation type, and we can choose either to install Ubuntu and leave all the files that are there, or we can choose to erase the entire disk and put a clean installation of Ubuntu. Whatever you want to make, it's always a good practice to have a clean installation, unless you are an expert and you know what you're doing. If not, just go with the easiest and clean solution, which is erase the disk. So we can choose this one and install Ubuntu, and then we can click on install now. And of course, this is going to remove everything that is inside this device, so make sure that you have some files, project inside, that you have a backup, because everything will be cancelled from the GHF51. It's asking confirmation to write the changes, and we agree, and we click on continue. And now we choose our time zone. So I'm going to choose my one, which is Sofia, if I can get it on the map. Okay, Sofia. You can choose your time zone. It just will set up the correct time of your device, and then we click continue. And now your name, you can put, of course, any name you want of the computer. I will put PySource. And then choose a password. We need to choose a password. If we don't put a password, we cannot continue. So put a password, whatever you want. I will put some basic password for this installation. And then you confirm your password and you press continue. Of course, make sure to remember to save the password somewhere, because if you don't have that, then later you cannot access to the device. And now the installation will proceed, copying the files. So here, to speed up the timing of the video, I'm going to pause where there is some waiting. So I will pause on this moment, for example. When the copying of the files is finished, you will see installing the system. So also this one will take some time, so I'm going to pause again. And right here, in just a few minutes, I will say less than 5 minutes, we will have installation complete. And so we can already restart the device. We can click on restart now. Let's do that. Let's see what other message we get right now. Please remove the installation. Then press enter. So we need to remove the USB device. Make sure that you are removing that one, otherwise you will see again booting from USB, and it will ask you again for the installation. So remove the USB device, and then we can click enter right here. And now we will see everything from the boot to see the Ubuntu live version on the DFI GHF51. So the boot, this is the BIOS, it will be the same as before. And now instead of Windows, because if you have this one, by default you always see running Windows 10. Instead, we will see loading Ubuntu, and we will just jump right inside and have a look of how Ubuntu looks like on this device. So I'm going to pause again until this loads, and then it will ask you to load for your username. I have Pyos, so I misspelled the name. I didn't notice that before. We type the password and then we press enter. Of course, you type your own password, you press enter, and you will be already inside Ubuntu. So this is the first run of Ubuntu, and it was live patch. Let's go on next, and here you can choose how to allow the privacy settings. I will leave everything as default, and we can click done. Now, the second goal is to install OpenCV. And as I install OpenCV, you can install, of course, any other library that you want. Just one thing that you need to know, this device by default doesn't have any Wi-Fi card. So either you install the Wi-Fi card there, or you use the traditional Ethernet cable, which is the same that I'm going to use right now, this one. So I'm going to connect this one with the DFI so that I have internet. You need to connect this one to your own router and then to the DFI, and we will have the connection. And you can see right here, we see wire connected. It means that we have the connection. And now, we need to open the terminal and go along with few installation. Of course, not the calculator, which I opened by mistake, but the terminal. So we open this one, the application, then we type ter, and we see terminal. I'm going to increase the size of this one so that you can see well the text that I'm going to use right here. Okay, one more plus and we are done. By default, each time we make a clear installation of Ubuntu, we have always to do the command sudo apt update, so it updates all the list of the softwares and updates available. So sudo, which gives you administrator permissions, apt update. And then, of course, it will ask you for administrator password, and you need to type your own password to continue. And this it might take some time, it depends on how many updates are available. And I'm going to pause this, and I will be back when this is to 100%. And after you are done with apt update, we go with sudo again to get administrator permissions, and then apt upgrade, and we press enter. It will ask you, it will tell you what things are going to be installed and the size that it will require on your disk. In my case, it's 394 megabytes, and we press enter to continue. And I'm going to pause the video, and I will be back when the installation is completed. And now also the sudo apt upgrade is completed. This will take some time. It depends, first of all, on the speed of your connection. So I would say from a couple of minutes to 20 minutes or more. It depends, of course, on the speed of your connection. In my case, it took around 5 minutes. Now, we need to install a few things. First of all, we have to install the pip library for Python 3. The pip library is the module that will allow us to install other Python libraries. And we can do that by sudo. And by the way, all these commands that I'm using right here will be on the link below, the blog post below. So you don't have to type them directly. You can just copy the link that you see below. So sudo apt install Python 3, remember to use the 3 because we use Python 3 dash pip. and let's press enter. It will ask the confirmation, and we press enter, and it's around 172 megabytes. So I'm going to pause this and be back when this is finished. And now, after we have pip installed, we are ready to install OpenCV or any library that we want to install on Python 3. And we can do that by typing pip3 and then install OpenCV-Python. -Python, and press enter. Now it's downloading the latest version of OpenCV. In my case now it's 4.5.1.48. In your case, of course, it will be either this one or other newer version than this one. It doesn't matter, so any version will work fine when you see this downloading. So I'm going to wait that the download is completed, and then we can test this library in real time. So I'm going to pause this one. And now the OpenCV installation is completed. I unplugged the webcam from the computer because I put the webcam on the GHF51 so that we will test in real time OpenCV getting the frames from the webcam. Now let's open a text editor where we're going to type the Python code to run OpenCV and taking the frames from the camera. And I will do that, so I will type text editor from the applications, and we see this one, text editor. And now let's import CV2. Then we want to load the camera cap equals, so let me change the layout because my keyboard is Italian keyboard, otherwise I'm confusing with the keys. Cap equals CV2.video capture 0. Then while true, we want read frame equals cap.read. And now we want to show the frames, so we're reading the frames from the camera. Now we want to show the frame cv2.imshow, and we want to show, let's call the frame, the window of OpenCV frame, and then we want to show what? We want to show frame, and now a wait key event, key equals cv2.wait key 1. So it means we're waiting 1 millisecond between each frame, and now we want a way to quit this. So if the key that we press is 27, which is the S key on the keyboard, we want to break everything. And finally, we release the camera, cap.release, once the execution is done, and cv2.destroy all windows. And I'm going to save this one, so we click on save or Ctrl S, and I'm going to put this one on the desktop, and I will call this camera test. Name camera underscore test dot py. Remember to save this as dot py and then save. Let's now run this one. So I'm going to open the terminal right here, and then let me increase the size of the terminal so that we can see correctly the text, even if I'm not going to type that much. So first of all, let's move on the desktop directory so that we are on the same directory where we have the file camera test. CD stands for change directory, and then desktop, and there is not such file or directory. Probably it's, let's see where this one is. So desktop, so probably it's capital letters CD desktop with the D uppercase desktop. Press enter. Okay, make sure that the D is uppercase desktop, and then Python 3, and we want to run camera test.py. And now we are correctly running Ubuntu and OpenCV on the GHF51, so the device is ready to be implemented with your commercial project and to be deployed in production. And this was everything that you needed to know for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and everything went smoothly. And by the way, please remember that everything that I talk about right here is also on the blog, where you will see screenshots and all the steps, step-by-step instructions that you can easily follow along also with the video. If you have any questions regarding the DFI GHF51, and also if you want to know some comparison, some suggestion about which device to use, if this one or the Jetson Nano or the Raspberry Pi, feel free to leave me a comment on the section below. And I want to let you know that I also offer consulting services if you need help to integrate computer vision on your company, or if you need help building a project. And also, if you don't need consulting service and you're a developer, aspirant developer, or a student, you will find also some useful things on the PySource Academy. This is all for today, and see you on the next week on next tutorial. Bye.